Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Lumineers Quest podcast where we talk everything Lorcana. I'm Zach.
And I'm Jacob.
Thanks for coming on this journey with us. I know why Jacob's sad. I know why he's pretending to be all melancholy, and it's because of the topic of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Bye-bye, Bucky. See you later. The Buckster.
Yep.
Shot dead. When was that? 2 days ago? Rest in peace.
I was in Missouri in an outlet mall, and I was just shopping, having a good time. And then this news dropped.
Okay, that's going to be the main topic of the day. Not just the Bucky situation. We're obviously going to have heavy focus on that, but in general, the process that goes behind these kind of changes. I think
it's worth talking about what Toronto's going to be like.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about it all, or everything surrounding this change and all the implications of that. So, with that said, as always, everyone, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, thanks for following, supporting, all of the above. If you want to support the podcast, the best way to do so is use our TCG Player affiliate link to buy your singles from TCG Player, which can be found in the description below of wherever you're listening / watching. If you want to email the show to have a question, you can do that at lorcanapod@gmail.com. Okay, card of the week. I have a quick fun note to say. We got a comment on the card of the week from this week's episode. Guess what the card of the week was?
I don't know.
Bucky.
Was it really?
Yeah,
okay.
It was Bucky. So the comment, I need to pull it up now since we're talking about it, was from a YouTube listener that said the timing on the Bucky's last hurrah for making card of the week. So shout out filming for the comment, because I've completely forgot that that's what we did last week for the card of the week, and so it turned out to be a perfect timing. So
I think I did it because it's just what I was playing and it was super relevant at the time.
And it obviously is even more relevant now. So yeah, do you have a good one to pick, or do you want me to go?
Go ahead.
Tinkerbell Giant Fairy.
Okay.
So Tinkerbell Giant Fairy is the Chapter 1, 6 cost, inkable. Shifts for 4, 4 strength, 5 willpower stat line.
In steel.
Quest for 2 in steel, and has 2 abilities that says when played, you deal 1 damage to every character on the board, and has the second ability that says whenever you challenge and banish a character, you may deal 2 damage to chosen opposing character. So very relevant to the Bucky situation as well, because it's the biggest Bucky deterrent that there is. I don't know. I think Tinkerbell is just the most consistent. I'm currently playing Sapphire Steel. I played Ruby Sapphire going up to the set championships, and did that a little bit with the shift of the Ruby Amethyst meta and the aggro-ness that you get out of that. It's a little bit harder to go Ruby Sapphire, so I'm going Sapphire Steel. And yeah, Tinkerbell's, I think, the best card in the deck. I mean, obviously you've got Tamatoa, who's really, really incredible to close out games, and Lucky Dime's really important. But as far as mid-game board control and holding up opponents, doesn't get better than Tinkerbell.
No, that's fair. I mean, I running her in Bucky right now as a mirror match, answer, because six cost was the best shot you got at dealing with Bucky. So
in the mirror, I think grab your swords and Tink is the only way to deal with Bucky. Or Avalanche. I mean, yeah. I mean, I've seen some people running Avalanche, but that's discussion for another time or place. I think Tinkerbell continues to be one of the most longevity cards there is. One of the the best fighters on the board. One of the best deterrents.
We always talk about Heroic Outlaw being the super rare set one. It's probably Giant.
It definitely is. I mean, it clearly has lived on way past Heroic Outlaw. It's just Heroic Outlaw continues to be the one that I wish would work more.
Hey, we've got that deck box coming, so
fair.
He can live on.
That's fair. Tinkerbell Giant Fairy. I think everybody knows her, everybody loves her / hates her, depending on the side of the board you're on.
If you hate Giant Fairy, I'm sorry. Come on, you gotta love Giant Fairy. Come on.
Okay, so Tinkerbell Giant Fairy, one of the biggest ways to hold up your opponent from questing, because you're most likely gonna 2-for-1, because you do the 1 damage. We all know that the 3 damage threshold is very critical. So if you're able to challenge into somebody and then put the 2 damage on somebody else, you're most likely 2-for-1ing. Insane card for sure. Okay, questions / comments from listeners. We got a new one from a new contributor, Molly. Thank you for the email. We appreciate it. And her question is very simple and a fun one. It says, what characters are you most excited to see in the future? And what new abilities are you hoping to see?
So, for me personally, maybe this is a bit of a shot in the dark, but Tron. That's what I think they could work it in.
It'll happen. I think it'll happen. I mean, they're especially because they can kind of like, you know, Tron is very. I don't want to say animated because it's obviously real life, but it's very like.
I mean, to be fair, there was an animated show.
Yeah, there was an animated show,
and it's fire.
You could
it's absolute
you could
fire.
work it in that way, but I also think just like the aesthetic of Tron is like so iconic.
It works,
and it fits in. So I know that yours. I've said a couple times. Mine is definitely Big Hero 6 and Baymax / Hero. I just think that, you know, having the synergies that you could get from like having Hero and a Baymax deck and the healing and the body and all, you know, he could be a healer and a bodyguard. Like he could do all the things, and so I think Baymax
he could be a resist bodyguard healer. He
could do it. He could literally be like, I don't know, the actual like, you know, leader of the good guys boss. You know, I say like big bad boss, but he's obviously a big good boss. So like leader of the heroes. But
Go-Go would be an insane rush.
Yeah.
Wasabi be a great challenger.
It would be an insane like challenger +4 or something nutty.
I could see Honey Lemon being the supporter, another supporter. Like maybe she throws resist on other characters.
Yeah, she
like,
has definitely some on play ability that like gives another character some crazy ability. But yeah. So I would love to see Big Hero 6. I mean, I think all those characters are fantastic. Love the movie. Love the personalities. Love all, you know, the ability to interact with each other, or, you know, have one like massive legendary like Baymax or Hero. And so yeah, that's definitely
specific character we could see in set 5 is Oswald. I think that's the one I'm going to throw out there.
Yeah, I've been seeing that going around now too with the new Pete and
Clarabelle, Von Drake.
Yeah. So and then for the abilities one, I feel like I've shouted this from the rooftop. I don't know how many times I've said it on the podcast, but I want an ability that like turns off other people's abilities for a turn. So you know how like Pegasus, like the new Shift Cloud Racer one says, whenever you shift to play this turn, all characters get evasive for a turn. So it's like your opponent's turn as well. I want something like that turns off abilities. So like I play a card,
there's a Captain Hook that does something to Peter Pan's. I think it gets rid of evasive from Peter Pan or something.
I want something that like blankets that. So
I get that.
Like counteracts Medusa, counteracts all the challengers, counteracts all the rush, counteracts like all. So like basically it gives the board a stalemate for a turn.
Like make every card vanilla?
Yeah, so like a card, and I don't know if it's on play or on quest or on both, like Hiram or something along the lines, but basically what it says is until the start of your next turn, all abilities are disabled. Whatever that looks like. So that you can go a little bit wider into a Medusa turn because you know it's not going to get Medusa. You can protect your Beast Tragic Hero for a turn so that you know you're going to be able to draw a card from Medusa and like really disrupt your opponent's game plan. That's what I want the most.
I came up with this not too long ago, but putting a card from your opponent's inkwell into the discard.
Ooh, that's a good one too.
I mean, so there's some ways where that could actually be a positive if your opponent can rip stuff from the discard, so they can get.
There's very few cards.
There's very few, but there's ways like a Chernobog could feed a Chernobog.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, I see what you're saying. I kind of like that because it disrupts your opponent. You know, I don't know how like expensive something like that would be, but if you're doing it early on, then you can like really disrupt their curve.
I think if you do it right, like what ink would that be? Emerald?
I don't know. That's what probably. I mean, Emerald or Sapphire, because Sapphire is all about the ink and ramp, and so like, you know, it could be about the disruption, but Emerald's obviously all about the disruption.
Or you could even a card from your discard into your inkwell, like something like that.
Stone Dragon kind of already does that.
True.
It's obviously just a character card from Stone Dragon, but I've been trying to work Stone Dragon, and I feel like that one is one that really helps those ramp decks, because late game you don't want to keep double inking, but if you can double ink from your discard, then you know you can. It doesn't matter if you're doing it or not, because that card's unusable regardless. So
big one though. Maybe it not as relevant anymore with Bucky being gone, but a card that immediately goes on the board if it's discarded.
Yeah, I thought there's a new Star Wars card that basically says that says if this card was discarded, you can play it
for free.
No, you have to pay to play it, but you can play it from your discard, and so it basically like is a deterrent for people to just keep discarding stuff because it doesn't matter.
Star Wars curiosity, what character is it?
I don't remember.
Dang.
Yeah, it was. I think it was a ship. I think it was one of the sky. The sky, and it was the opposite. It was if this card gets discarded, then you can play that one. It's not like something that allows you to do that from your discard. It's like if this one specifically is. So anyways, so you'd have to do that like to 10 cards to make that,
Yeah.
Or you could do it to 1 that allows you to, take something out, kind of like Hades, I guess, to pull it out of your discard and put it in your hand.
But I'm saying, like, someone suddenly shows you, you pick that one, it goes on the board immediately.
Yeah, so I guess you don't need 10 of them, but yeah, I think that's probably like an Emerald thing too.
Yeah.
That would be crazy. So I think that kind of covers that one. So news, what's on our mind? Quick league match recap. So I have a couple things to say on this one. First off, the news, Bucky's obviously on our mind. That's a big, massive, like, kind of shift in things. But 2, you missed league this week.
Yep.
Very unfortunate. There were 17 people at league.
That was nuts. I saw the photos.
And 3 of us were not there. Your family, so the 3 players that come with you were not there. That would have been a 20-person league. Like 6 weeks ago, we had 5.
That's nuts.
Yeah, it was so crazy.
Any familiar faces?
No, it was all new people. Like,
wow.
There was a new family with, I think, 2 daughters, and like there were 4 people from the family that were playing. There's another one of the new families that has come in that I think 2 or 3 play, and so like it's definitely becoming like a family thing. Plus
nice.
All of the new the people, I say new, but
third wave.
Yeah, like all of the inner circle people now. So like James and Seth were there, and all of the other like now friends that we've made over the past like a month that have started to be more normal people.
Little do all these new people know they're in a league with celebrities.
I don't think that's true. So that's the first one. Like, that's what's on my mind. And the second one is we are, as of today, 1 week away from being in Dallas, getting ready for, I say Dallas, it's Fort Worth. For those who are not familiar, we're relatively close. We're driving to Texas for the DLC, but it's the, people in our area call it DFW, Dallas Fort Worth, and we just shorten it to Dallas. But we're going to we're 1 week away from the Fort Worth challenge. Are you excited, nervous, all the above?
Yeah, all the above. I mean, the thing is, I'm not expecting to make Top Cut or anything like that. It's just, I want it,
Yeah, I want it. I want it so bad too. Like probably 2 weeks ago, my confidence was not very good. I kind of didn't really know where I wanted to be or what I wanted to do and that sort of thing. I feel like my confidence is really starting to grow into the meta, which, is obviously the right time you want to be peaking. So again, I'm not expecting to make the Top Cut. I'm very hopeful. I feel like there's a decent shot. Yeah, we'll see, obviously.
I think what also helps is like a lot of our local players, like our local community is really good.
It's so good.
They're so good.
It's so good.
So we have good training.
Yeah. I mean,
especially with set championships.
It's shockingly insane. And I mean, spoiler alert, we're going to dive into this deeper in the next episode, but recapping weekend 1 set championships, I feel like if I'm not playing somebody from like our local scene, then it's a gimme. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that, like you just said, like our league is so good that if I'm not playing one of those people, then I just have a ton of confidence going into it because the expectations are so high from playing everybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, I could shout out 6 people right now that are all like fantastic.
And I mean, the first weekend of set championships was awesome. We'll get into that later.
Yeah, well, we did. I don't know if we're doing a bonus episode or I think that might be the topic for next week because, again, going to Dallas next week, we're probably not going to be able to record, and so we're trying to record a few ahead of time.
I mean, we're leaving early Friday.
Yeah,
so
like maybe we can. I thought about maybe recording one there with like the whole crew if that's possible to do.
Oh, we got to do that. Now that you mentioned that, we got to do that.
Figuring out, but just one mic, like I don't logistically, I don't know how we'll make it work, but I'm gonna try to figure out a way to make it work. Anyways, So yes, we're gonna have a recap of our set championships here relatively soon. Just don't know exactly when it's gonna come out. But with all that said, the big news. Do you have anything else besides Bucky?
No.
I think that's it. So
yeah.
With that being said, let's jump to the main topic. Bucky has been basically
killed.
Yeah, he is
shot.
He is rest in peace, Bucky. October 2023 to July 2024 was his life. They have gone back and revised basically every stat / ability of Bucky's card. So he was a 2-cost inkable 1/1 stat line with Ward, and the ability that says anytime you play a Floodborn character, your opponent has to discard a card. Every single one of those have changed. He's now a 3-cost card. I guess the stat line hasn't changed, which is weird because that's probably the one that should have changed given the rest of the changes, I think. Still 1/1, still quests for 1. He no longer has Ward, so that's taken away. And his ability has changed to say anytime anybody uses Shift to play a Floodborn character, discard a card. So, he's no longer playable. Yep. We think. I'm not jumping to judgment, and I don't know if you've seen this argument or not yet. My assumption is going to be is they saw how broken he was this time and how oppressive to the meta he was, and they know what's coming in set 5, and they said, it's going to get really bad.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so maybe these changes fit into the field of like Emerald Steel cards in set 3, and it's still relatively playable. I don't know that for certain. I'm just guessing.
So I think it was Specky who said this, and it was a really good point. The reason they nerfed it so hard is because they don't have to, they want to make sure it's dead because they don't want to do a second Errata of Bucky. So they're killing it now.
I mean, I guess that's
so
fair.
They don't have to go and change things again because the Errata is much more. I mean, it costs a lot more than a straight up ban for them to produce because they're gonna make physical cards.
Have you seen that for certain? They have not said anywhere that they're actually reprinting.
They said, Rochelle said they're figuring out how to distribute the physical form of the card.
They are reprinting.
They're not. I think what we've kind of speculated as a community is that they will ship them out to hobby shops.
I have not seen that. If that's the case, I guess that changes a few things. But yeah, I think the main decision point here, which first off, take a step back. The communication behind this is crazy. Normally this stuff happens and it's like we're making this change and that's kind of all of it. But they went into a lot of details as to why they wanted to make the change and why they chose this path. And so they said they wanted to make the change because Bucky's incredibly oppressive. If you don't disagree with that, if you don't agree with that, then I don't think you understand the game very well, or don't play at a competitive level either way, because he is incredibly oppressive. Every single turn from turn 2 on, you may be forced to discard a card. So if you're not playing a deck that doesn't draw at that rate, then you're just done. Like, there's no way to win the game. Mm-hmm. So that point being made is it pushes a lot of fun / creative decks out of the meta because it just can't be played. So I think of Ruby Amber, like Mufasa type decks. They just don't have enough draw. You don't get really any draw till turn 3, and you get 1 with Julieta, and then you get 2 with Rapunzel potentially. Like, that's your best draw path. And it's just not great. And so that deck got completely pushed out of the meta by Bucky. Basically anything without Flaversham is getting dwarfed by Bucky because Flaversham's the best card draw in the game. So I completely understand it from that respect. They followed up and said this wasn't like a competitive ruling. This wasn't made to like appease the competitive community. It was made just like in general a way to, create an overall better health of the game, which I also really appreciate. As much as I now consider myself part of the competitive community of the game. I'm very cognizant of the fact that if you don't have the casuals playing the game probably dies.
Yep.
So I want everybody to have a good time. I want everybody to feel welcoming and invited to play the game. I've seen so many stories over the past month of people going to their leagues to play like a normal casual league or whatever the case might be. either they're playing Bucky or their opponent's playing Bucky and seen both sides of it saying, I just quit, I don't want to play this. Like, that's not the experience that you want your game to be in. So getting rid of that, I think, helps a lot. And then secondarily, they came back and said, there was a lot of discussion around, and we'll talk more about this too, is the way to handle it. Do you ban the card outright and kill it, or do you change the card so that it can still be played under these new stat lines? I don't really think I have a preference either way. I think, from like a logistical perspective, it probably makes sense to just ban it, because then it's like gone. You don't have to deal with it anymore. But the explanation as to why they didn't also makes a lot of sense. They said they don't want to change cards like that this often or often at all, but they didn't want to take a card away from Emerald and like leave it, lacking a little bit. They wanted to give people the option to continue playing it. And so again, from that respect, totally understand. Like, if that's the way that route they want to take, I love the communication, I love the openness of it, and I love that they've done such a great job of continuing to, inform the players at what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Errata was the best decision. I think they made the best choice. I've seen a lot of discussion on that. I agree with the Errata.
I still think you probably ban it, but I don't really care either way.
I think it's because they're. I think personally the Errata is the way to go. And like I said before, it costs more than just a straight up ban. So they're even taking extra.
No, I understand that, and I get that, but that's what I mean. Is I think that the confusion that it can cause for casual players, you said yourself, it's dead basically. So why even bother reprinting it if nobody's going to play it anymore? Mm-hmm. So I don't have a preference. I'm just saying, as someone on the outside looking in, to me it makes more sense to probably ban. Am I happy they did it this way? Again, don't really care, but sure, it doesn't affect. Like, I'm not mad that they did it this way and like think they should have banned it. I just know that my play set of promo Buckies is now worth a fortune. So
now, if you don't mind, I want to explain why it's a little upsetting for me. Not because I disagree that he's oppressive. He's very oppressive. And it was tough. Like, I think in the end, I think it's the right decision. Better for the longevity of the game, better for the health of the game. Good decision.
Yeah.
I just spent quite a bit of money to play this Bucky deck on the specific cards. And now those cards have dropped since the Bucky change.
Yep. And
now that deck might not be as playable as it once was. So that is where the personal...
So, yeah, I understand that. And so there's... look at the opposite side of it. Diablo and Ursula are still going to be fantastic cards, sans Bucky. So it's not like you can't play those cards anymore. Mm-hmm. That deck will retool itself.
Hopefully.
It will. Secondarily, I think there was a little bit of an overcorrection into people starting to dump Diablos. Specifically because it's the new set and the most expensive one. I think it's corrected back a little bit now. But like, look at Ursula. It was what, $35-$40 the entire last set, and now it's $25. Mm-hmm. Like, Diablo is just going to fall off once the next set comes out. So that's going to happen regardless. And so I can't blame all of that on Bucky. I think people are just jumping the gun to get away from it, because they know that's not what they want to play next set. That's my guess. That being said, I totally understand that side of the financial, consideration of this. I've bought Gem solos for way too much. I've bought Jafar Striking Illusionist solos singles for way too much. I bought Sisu single. Wow, why do I keep saying solos? I did 4 times in a row. Singles for way too much. The cards are just going to drop. Like, we needed the cards to play with. I knew that they were going to drop once I started buying them, but I needed them to play a couple tournaments, and so I bought them. And so do I not like that happened? Sure, but we just know it's part of this type of game. Like, that's going to happen eventually. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't blame Bucky solely for that, but I think it obviously had a triggering impact that did change it.
Yeah.
Could also look at it in the opposite perspective and say, the foil promos that we have from the store, our league, are now worth like 10 times as much. And so, sell those to make up for the cost you lost on everything else. Yeah. So I think the next big thing to talk about is, like you said, like Toronto. Toronto's a wild one.
So let's explain why.
So so I guess for everybody listening, if you haven't kept up with this goes into effect August 9th with the release of Shimmering Skies.
That's a hobby release of Shimmering Skies.
Yeah. So when Shimmering Skies comes out, Bucky changes, which is another reason that I have the theory that, if they really hated it as much as they said, or if, it was as oppressive and as unfun as it said, then they could have just changed it today and said, like, no more Bucky starting today, blah, blah, blah. But the fact that it, coincides with the release of Shimmering Skies, maybe it's just convenient, but it also makes me think that there's stuff in that set that really changed the interactions with Bucky.
I think the reason they did that is so if you're going to Fort Worth or your set championships, you don't have to completely change your deck.
No, I agree with that too. But they could, I guess you're right. That being said, so the start of Shimmering Skies is the hobby release on August 9th. It doesn't become legal until like mid-September. Or Shimmering Skies doesn't become like set championship / DLC legal until mid-September, because it's 2 weeks after the wide release.
I think so.
The wide release is August 23rd, so beginning of September. That being said, DLC Toronto is August 24th, I think. And the Bucky change, like we said, goes into effect August 9th. So that is, and since it's not a set 5 card, that is valid to be played in Toronto.
So it's a set 4 Errata Bucky meta being played, which we don't know what that looks like.
Yeah, so it's no set. So imagine set 4 Bucky or set 4 meta without Bucky. That's essentially what you're getting. Mm-hmm. I would imagine all Emerald Steel players that are going to Toronto are trying to find something different to play.
Yeah,
because I don't feel like it's playable without it. Maybe. I say that maybe people go back to Merfolk Flynn. Like that's how I think Emerald Steel stays around. I think you go back Merfolk Flynn, PJ, and Prince John.
I'm sure someone like, or maybe even Joshua, will show up with some final deck to close out the set, and then
that'd be crazy,
and then win. And
but yeah, I said I kind of wish I was going now. Like I feel like that would just be a really like
there's been a lot of
like
that,
a Wild West like crazy time to be there, because you don't know what you could come up against. I think there will be a ton more Mufasa. I think there will be a lot more Ruby Amethyst as well, because its biggest oppression right now.
Have Mulan prices gone up? Do you know?
I haven't looked, but I don't think so. I think you'll see a ton more Ruby Amethyst because its biggest oppressor currently is Bucky, and so if Bucky's gone, then even with Bucky, it came in first and second in Bochum, and so with it gone, it has even a bigger shot. And so I think if you're preparing for Toronto or plan on going to Toronto, I would be ready for a lot of Ruby Amethyst, because that would be my guess, is that there's a ton of Ruby Amethyst.
For sure. I mean, we're gonna see. I think we're gonna see a lot of location answers now, a lot more than we already did. So more Rise of Titans, more Zeus.
Yeah, I think you have to have location answers. I mean, it was kind of pushing that way anyways, with the locations and the necessity to be able to deal with them. But yeah, now you really have the necessity to be able to deal with them, because Ruby Amethyst is running rampant with its Flynn Sisu Castle. Mm-hmm. So. I mean, I think that's the big topic, but like going forward, like how often do you expect this to happen? Because I can think of probably 3 other cards at least that I think would be like in that same realm of like really, really annoying.
They're annoying, but they're not. I don't think they make the game worse like Bucky did.
No, and I agree with that. But yeah, I guess
Be Prepared is a needed card. Whole New World is a needed card.
I'm talking about Queen's Castle and Flaversham and Medusa are the 3 that, like, the first 3 that come to my mind that, like,
I think all of those are needed.
Need to change. I'm not saying you cannot tell me that the 1-cost move on Queen's Castle is not insane. The 1-cost move on Queen's Castle might be the most broken thing in the game. Genuinely.
That is fair.
It should be a 2-cost move. Like, I don't even like the 7 strength or 7 willpower of the castle really, really sucks.
So here's what needs to happen. It needs to bump up a move cost or drop down a lore.
Or drop down a willpower. Make it 6. Just get shot by Maui. But the fact that it's 1 to move, 2 lore, and doesn't get one shot by basically anything, like, that's insane. I don't want to say it's oppressive, like in the sense of it is Bucky, but it's basically taking control decks out of the game. Like, Ruby Amethyst got killed by the castle because they have no way to deal with it. Because by the time they can deal with it, you turn 5 Maui.
Ruby Sapphire or
Ruby Sapphire, yeah. The time that you Maui into it, they can basically then be prepared. And so then they can just, removal, be prepared, be king, removal, be prepared, and just protect that castle forever and ever, and there's just no way for you to remove it. Yep. And so the fact that that's the life that you live, to me, says that there's not a good balance in the tools to counteract that. But anyways, is that as bad of a deal as Bucky? No, absolutely not. Is it the one that's, in my eyes, the most hard to play around? And what I mean by play around is to to be able to counter what they're doing. And so yes, I mean, if you're not playing Rise of the Titans, then it's
but what you think
really difficult.
What you have to think about with locations is we really only had 2 sets of location answers. Because the first 2 sets didn't have any of that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's still obviously the newest piece of the game, but that said, the only answers that we do have, direct answers that we do have, are in Steel. So again, it's not it's about forcing people into a certain direction to deal with the meta. It's like you're forcing people into Steel to deal with that.
I'm saying it's not a good thing.
Yeah, and so to each his own. Do I think it needs banned or changed? I don't know, probably not. There's definitely ways that you can come up with to deal with it. The point I'm trying to make is that's the one, if I could change something, that's what I would change.
Yeah.
It would be Queen's Castle, which is crazy to say because Flaversham and Medusa are both really crazy too. But I think they have, Medusa is annoying, but
Sapphire needs card draw, has to have a really good card draw engine. Flaversham's that.
And Flaversham can die. Brawl completely changes the way you have to play with Flaversham. So I don't feel like he's too crazy.
And Medusa, it keeps super OP cards in check.
Yeah, again,
and it's pretty.
She's not her on board. I don't care.
And I think that's good. I think that's what it needs to be.
Exactly.
I think it's a perfect card.
Absolutely. I think it's very annoying. But anyway, so all of this to say, there are a few other ones I think that have been thrown out there a bunch. But Bucky's definitely the one that, to their explanation, fits the need to change. Incredibly impressive, changes the fun of the game, makes it less inviting for new players. If those are the criteria you're going through, then yeah, Bucky's the one to take.
Because it also, I would say, for new players as well, it also requires legendaries and stuff for that deck to be mostly played. So if you want to play it even...
Well, I think you just have to really understand the game too.
Yeah.
Because if you don't understand the interactions with Ward and Bucky and Tinkerbell and Grab Your Swords, then I just don't think you can win. Aggro doesn't have a chance because Bucky takes all your cards. Mm-hmm. Control doesn't have a chance because Bucky takes all your cards. And so, yeah, I mean, it's one of those where it does take away the ability for people to come into the game and learn how to play. So from that respect, again, I really get it. And I think it's a cool change. But our group chat that day, I don't think nobody believed me at first. That was I was the one that saw it first, and I posted Bucky dead, Bucky dead, Bucky dead, or Bucky nerf, I think is actually what I said. But yeah, I don't know if you knew this or not, but your dad texted me and he was like, "Is Jake kidding me on this?
Yeah,
is this a real thing that or is he pulling my leg?" And I was like, "No, this is real."
Yeah, we talked about it. He called me. I was in the car. And he was like, "Dude, what is going on?" I'm like, "Yeah, let me tell you about this."
Yeah, it's real. So yeah, that was a fun day because the crazy part is it was after league. Unfortunately, it would have been really fun to have everybody there at league where we could all talk about it that day. But crazy day for sure.
I mean, so I haven't talked to you about this. Might as well talk about it on the podcast. Am I gonna get booed for playing it at Fort Worth?
No, I expect a massive green list at Fort Worth. Okay. I would say 50% of players play Bucky.
All right. As long as I'm not looked upon, looked down on.
I think more people that weren't going to play it now consider it because it's the last hurrah that they feel like. And it is currently the best deck. There's a lot, there's been some people online doing analysis of like the breakouts and stuff, and in Germany, they looked at like the number of total players that played each deck. And so, if 20 players play a certain deck and 20 players make top cut, then you would expect that deck to be performing how it should be. Emerald Steel was the most overperforming deck. It was like 30% of players and 39% of the top cut. So it like well overperformed versus the amount of people. Same thing with Ruby Amethyst. It was like 25% of players and 30% of top cut. And so those two like very much overperformed. And then it's pushed out Ruby Sapphire, my baby, because it was like 20% of the lists and like 6% of the top cut. Yeah. So it like well underperformed its expectations given the amount of people that brought it. And so it's to go back to the initial point, Emerald Amethyst was already overperforming. Now this is like the last opportunity for people to like jump on that wagon of like Emerald Steel, to like jump on that wagon of like I have what everybody says is the best deck. So yeah, I expect there to be a ton of mirrors in your future.
Yeah, I mean, gotta be prepared for it.
Pun intended.
Gotta grab your swords for it.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta grab your swords for it because that's the mirror option is to grab your swords. Yeah, I mean, I think that kind of covers it. It's just, it's one of those news topics that like did deserve a little bit longer of a discussion. It
deserves an episode, yeah.
Because it is one of the biggest news days in Lorcana thus far.
It is. It 100% is. I mean, it will change the game going forward, and it'll be like, years in the future we'll talk about. Remember the day that Bucky was killed?
I'm gonna put my Bucky promos in like a safe and bury them.
Time capsule.
Yeah, and like bury them in like 10 years, unbury them, and then sell them for millions. I mean, that's probably not the case, but if you do have original league promo Buckies, they were selling for like $1.50 on TCG Player, and they jumped up to like $15 an hour later. The day before the announcement, they sold 30 on TCG Player. The day of the announcement, when I counted, they had sold 230. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of desire to have those cards. So yeah, I'm keep them. Maybe they'll buy me an Enchanted at some point down the line.
I mean, it's just I did not expect something like this to happen. I just didn't think that this was in the realm of things that happen for Lorcana. I just wasn't expecting it.
I think it always does, though. I think that's the thing is, they can play, the internal playtesting team can only test so much, right? Like if there's 10 people, even if they're playing 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, they can't test near as much as all of the people in the community playing. So it's gonna happen, and it will happen again.
I'll volunteer to be a part of the playtesting team. I volunteer.
It'll. I don't know when it'll happen again. I don't know what card they'll choose to happen again. I don't know if that card's even out right now, but I imagine it'll happen again in the next year. Call it.
Yep.
We'll see another one that this happens to. Whether that's a ban or a card change, I don't know, but I think they will be some sort of change to the integrity of the game.
I think Ward as a whole will definitely be a lot more careful where they place it.
Ward as a whole is very true because I've played against a couple people playing the Muses, and let me tell you, the Muse, that's an annoying card to play because the 4 health.
Ward 4.
The Ward 4 is crazy, and it has insane abilities too. Like Ward 4 does nothing, just quests for 2. Sure, whatever, I don't care. Like Cusco, I could care less about Cusco compared to the Muses.
Cogs to me is in the same realm.
But again, like imagine if Cogs had an ability that like impacted your board every time I did something. Like that's the difference. Yeah. Is that the Muse, like they can bounce a Flaversham, they can bounce I don't know. I mean, Flaversham's always the one because I'm playing Sapphire Steel, but like they can take away your board advantage and give them board advantage and sing songs and do other things. So like the ands that you can just keeping on giving them.
Bounce an opposing Diablo and bounce back your own aerial.
Yeah, I mean just crazy amounts of things it can do. And so the like things with Ward that also have abilities, you have to be extremely careful. Like that's what I think. Because again, Cogsworth is a perfect example. It is very oppressive, but it doesn't like actively go against you. Bucky and the Muse both actively hurt you as an opponent, and so that's where I think that one's a little bit higher on the list. Do I think Cogsworth's like close in that realm? I can be realistic and say sure. So,
Thank you.
but anyways, yeah, I think that kind of covers it. I mean, this is a little bit of a shorter one, but yeah, I mean, there's just one of those things that we want to make sure everybody's keeping up to date with. August 9th, Bucky will be no longer the Bucky we are familiar with.
It's gonna, man.
It's right around the corner too.
You know what's gonna be hilarious is when there's a new Bucky card, like like a completely different, like in Ruby or something, and they'll be like, "Oh man, he's coming back around."
Yeah. Yeah. But anyways, yeah. So if you're going to Dallas or / Fort Worth for the DLC, that's gonna be the last hurrah for Bucky, most likely. Finish out the set championships with him, and then August 9th, when Shimmering Skies come out, Bucky will be no more. So. Get ready for a new face of Lorcana villainy, I guess.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of been the villain of the last month or so. But
that's fair.
Anyways, yes, everyone, thanks for listening. Thanks for the support. Thanks for being here with us, and we will catch you next time.
All right, bye guys.